It is Rock and Roll Friday on the Savage Nation, blasting out from San Francisco to all of America. This is the Cleftones, isn't it? Cleftones. They went to Jamaica High School as well as I. I didn't know them at the time. Are there any Cleftones, any Clefts out there listening to the show? I mean, I know Fats Domino, I heard, listens to the show. Many actors and entertainers are secret conservatives, and they listen. I think my audience is a much different audience than you might imagine. They say it's the third largest show in America in radio. Whatever, the number doesn't matter. It's the quality of the audience. So here we were talking about politics, memory, God, personal stuff. Now, first I want to read you something, a little paragraph. I know it sounds teachy and preachy. Emily Dickinson, you may know her name, an old white woman, lived between 1830 and 1886. I don't think she's taught anymore. I think instead they teach Emily Has Two Daddies or something like that. But Emily Dickinson wrote this: "'Tis the majority, in this as all prevail, assent and you are sane. Demur, you're straightway dangerous and handled with a chain." I'll read that again. "'Tis the majority, in this as all prevail, assent and you are sane. Demur, you're straightway dangerous and handled with a chain." Emily Dickinson. That's the preface to my book, Banned in Britain, which I'm almost finishing right now. That's the opening couplet to the book. Because this is what Obama has brought to America. Now, we used to hear under Bush that he took away our rights and the Patriot Act, you're going to go to jail. That was all a lie from the communist left that has now taken over America. They're the ones who want to put you in a chain. They're the ones unleashing the union thugs at town hall meetings. They're the ones shutting people up. They're the ones buying 3 Gulfstream 550 jets for Speaker Pelosi's personal use and the people in Congress. They're the ones bankrupting the healthcare system by robbing you blind for charges that don't even exist, for patients that don't even exist, from doctors that don't even exist. And in all of the talk about healthcare reform, have you heard one page devoted to cleaning up the criminality in the healthcare system? Not one word, have you? Billions and billions of dollars are being stolen from the healthcare system, and not one word is being addressed about that by the demon cats. So we were talking about that. And we now go back to something else. I have such little time when I get worked up. I have to read this to you. So my cousin sends me a packet of old material, including pictures and letters from my dad to my mom, God rest their soul, my grandparents' citizenship book. Listen to this. It's a little book, and it says, First Drill Book in Reading English by McAvoy. And I see my grandmother's handwriting in here. Here is the opening page to this book that immigrants had to read. Introduction. The illiterate adult is tragically handicapped, for he is unable to read the simplest direction or to write his name. As some of the men and women themselves express it, they are blind, because although they see the printed word, they are totally unaware of its meaning. Those teachers who have labored long and patiently with these self-conscious, diffident adults deserve the gratitude of all who are interested in the happiness and safety of their fellow beings and who long to see a higher and more intelligent type of citizenship in this country. Mrs. McAvoy is a sympathetic, successful teacher who has shown rare insight into the problems of these adult students who are making so heroic a struggle to free themselves from the bonds of illiteracy. Now compare them to the ones with the gangbang tattoos, with the hand signals. They may as well be using smoke signals we're letting into this country, taking over places like Texas, Tennessee, states still once American, taken over by radical gangs because of the communist liberals who have said that they all come here to work. They all come here to work? Then how do you explain that 1 out of 3 prisoners are illegal aliens who came here to kill, murder, deal drugs, etc.? What, are you kidding me? This goes on. Carolyn Whipple, Supervisor of Immigrant Education, State Department of Education, Albany, New York. Remember now, we're talking about a book from the period that my grandparents came over. They had to read these books for the citizenship test. It concludes with this. Suitable teaching material for illiterate adults is scarce For most of the textbooks on the market are written for the literate, non-English-speaking foreigner and are consequently altogether too difficult for the first steps in acquiring a new and difficult language. This excellent little book, therefore, will be a boon to many a teacher in this field who is trying to lead adult pupils into the path of enlightenment and richer living. In other words, America was a place of enlightenment and richer living. They understood that people who came here from the third world understood they wanted to be enlightened and they wanted to have a richer life. Today, what do the communist Democrats tell you? Your culture is garbage. Obama goes around the world and tells everyone we should be ashamed to be Americans. He apologizes for being an American. He apologizes for America, the greatest beacon of light the world has ever seen. We have an enemy within the gates. An enemy within the gates, ladies and gentlemen, is less to be feared than this man in the White House, according to tens of millions of Americans who have awakened to the gang that has taken this country over. Now, I know many of you don't agree with me for your own reasons. I know that a goodly percentage of you are federal workers, and you don't have a stake in the health care reform debate because you have your own health care. Many of the listeners to this show do not know that federal workers are in their own system. They don't even contribute to Social Security. Did you know that? Did you know that the tens of millions of federal workers do not contribute 10 cents to the Social Security system? Are you aware of that? Do you know that they contribute to their own little secure retirement funds that cannot be used by illegal aliens, that cannot be used by individuals who do not qualify for Social Security? Are you aware that the federal bureaucracy has their own safety net? You're not aware of any of this because they won't tell you. And their minions in the media won't disclose this to you, will they? But I will tell you, because I know so much that you need to know, all of you illiterate adults.
Savage. The Savage Nation.
Takes the news and tears it apart and puts it back together in a way that I can understand it.
Talk 910, KNEW.
Let's go strolling as a
Rock and Roll Friday. I know many of you are driving right now to I guess, weekend destination, or you're there already. Some people are, well, it's 34 minutes after the hour on the West Coast. Some are going home, getting ready to go home. Long, beautiful weekend ahead, and you don't want to hear about town halls turning violent. You don't want to hear about Nancy Pelosi and the thugs buying $65 million G550 jets for themselves with your money. You don't want to hear about people shouting at Pelosi in Denver. You don't want to hear about physicians in Houston screaming that they don't want socialized medicine. You don't want to see ordinary Americans being arrested in St. Louis for standing up to a lousy, low-life congressperson. You don't want to see union thugs unleashed beating up ordinary Americans. You don't want to hear about that. I understand it, too. Believe me, there's only so much you can take. And many of you say, what can I do about it anyway? The answer is you can go to a town hall meeting and shout at them. You can shout at these lousy, phony Bolshevik Democrats. They think that you're a moron. They live in their own world. They actually think that you want what they're trying to give you. They are so deluded. You know, there was a report the other day that 27 million Americans, or 37 million, were on antidepressants. How many years has Michael Savage been telling you that Congress should be drug tested? How many years have I said to you the only explanation for their behavior is that most of them are on drugs, that our leaders are drugged? I don't mean they're junkies. I don't mean they're crack addicts. They're on prescription medication, which makes them even more dangerous and more unpredictable. They're robotic. They are dangerous robotic individuals. You can watch them talk. You can see their syntax, and I am telling you they're on antidepressants. So you say, well, so what? I am too, meaning you are. Well, I'll tell you what, so what. It explains an awful lot of what's wrong with America. It explains how the ruling class, so to speak, is so out of touch with the people. They don't understand what's going on around them, nor do they care. They are drunk with the insulation in which they live. They are drunk on the insulation. They may as well be sniffing glue for the kinds of things they're trying to pass in this country. But you know all of this. You understand all of this. Of course they should be drug tested. If you go take a job to work for a police department, fire department, school, don't you have to be drug tested? Many other jobs require drug testing, and yet the people who write the bills that take billions from us, they're not drug tested? Why not? Why are they not drug tested? How do you know they're not on crack cocaine? How do you know they're not on marijuana? How do you know they're not drunk? How do you know they're not on dangerous drugs? You don't know any of that, do you? And that explains why this country is in a state of almost ruination. I told you, and I told the story 5 years ago. I don't think I repeated it once. It'll be stolen by tomorrow, or perhaps by tonight. Perhaps before it leaves my lips, the hemorrhoid with ears will steal it and then somehow get it out on a blog. But I'll take that chance anyway. The hemorrhoid has such good ears, he does not need eyes. But anyway, that aside, I told you that China was once imprisoned by the British with opium. Do you remember that story? That the British had flooded China with opium in order to, well, for profit. And many original American fortunes were made in the opium trade. They were the mules, the transporters, including a family by the name of Delano from Boston. That name may ring a bell. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of Obama's heroes. Now, I'm not saying his family's involved. I know they aren't for sure.